Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. What an amazing day it has been so far. To all of you who had the opportunity to join us earlier today, thank you. We hope that you found it just as valuable as we did. And this evening session will be nothing short of amazing, just like all the other things on the agenda for this day. So just wanted to welcome you to our closing session on the first day of our Dig MD Network Experience Week. And it is my honor and pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker for this closing session. Her name is Ms. Donna Bingham, and I'm going to share a little bit about Ms. Donna. Ms. Donna Bingham is an innovative leadership expert, author, philanthropist, and strategist. She is the CEO and president of IMR and Donna Bingham International Incorporated, and she works to create high-performing workplaces. She's an organizational strategist and leadership authority with more than 20 years of expertise. And her background in diversity, research, and talent management has made her a frequently quoted and sought-after expert in diversity and inclusion talent management. It is my honor to pass the mic on to Ms. Donna, who will walk us through an amazing session that aligns completely with our theme for the week, Uprooting Systemic Inequities. With that, Ms. Donna, the floor is yours.
Okay, there we are. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. But today I want to share with you 7 strategies to uproot systematic racism and equality. And the reason why I developed these strategies was because I got phone calls that said, Donna, what can I do now that I understand the injustices that have been going on to really bring meaningful change within my organization and within my overall culture. And so today I want to go over those strategies with you. And I also want to say that today is imperative that we uproot systematic inequality because it undermines the foundation of every organization and society, as well as our economy. In the past few months, we have heard more than ever about inequality. The increased awareness is a breath of fresh air, especially for those who experience it on a daily basis. It's well overdue. CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, the NFL, the NBA, national organizations have acknowledged the extreme inequality that we have. And it is truly a byproduct of intentional policies that ingrain prejudice and that in many cases limit opportunity for many. It also creates that general precept that one race or class is above another, which we know that not to be true. But this is not enough by itself. We cannot just point out the existence of inequality. We must transform the new awareness and existence of inequality into a lasting organizational and social change with urgency. The time is now. So as Darrell Walker says and states, we see inequity as the biggest barrier to human dignity and economic opportunity. We have affirmed that inequality extends far beyond the wealth gap. Inequality is political, social, and culture in nature. It contributes to the deficit of our democracy and discrimination along racial, ethnic, and gender lines. And how do we accomplish a lasting and meaningful change within an organization, as well as within our society? We must attack inequality at its very roots. If you look at the picture, you see a tree. Now, this tree is representative of a 400-year-old banyan tree. And while it just looks like a tree, I want you to know that a banyan tree is a type of a fig tree, and it pollinates only by its own species. The banyan tree is also known as a parasite or a strangling tree, which is also known to only germinate on host trees. So its seeds falls on a tree, and then it slowly and eventually grows over its tree and eventually kills the tree that is upon and puts its roots into the ground as if this is something that it was entitled to. So that is why I think it's very pointing that we have the tree with the roots and have the understanding of knowing how paramount it is for us at this particular time to make sure that that tree gets uprooted. And what does this take? It takes us being intentional every day. To uproot the tree of inequality. We must be intentional first because we want to make sure that we're transparent and authentic. As we well know, nothing replaces that. So when you're authentic and when you're intentional in everything that you do, you create a culture that will allow others around you to do the same. You must actively, consciously, and openly operate and communicate with authenticity and transparency, and have dialogue on those historically off-limit topics. And what will this do? It will create trust. And we cannot eliminate inequalities without trust. Secondly, we need to look at our next intentional key strategy, and that is we need to make sure that we address the cultural glass ceiling. We must identify barriers to equal participation in employment, We must identify racism created by the unconscious bias. We all have them, and create systems that mitigate that occurrence. How and why we have cultural biases will create the glass ceiling that we now need to take down. And we must have a comprehensive diversity and inclusion program that is anchored by senior management and that provides adequate budget and matrix and performance evaluations, because it creates inclusivity and clarity and voice. And we all need that within every organization. You must identify racial barriers, institutional practices, and procedures, including requirements for roles and advancement throughout the organization. To recruit for diversity is one thing, but to filter for racial barriers and institutional practices and procedures is another. Thirdly, we must be intentional on promoting diverse leadership. Uprooting inequities can only be achieved if there is a diverse leadership with equal pay. People of color make approximately a third of the workforce. Black people account for approximately 3.2%, and a third. Fortune 500 companies where we have men, they are 2%. Now, you must be intentional in creating a pipeline to promote people of color so that these numbers can increase from the C-suite to the entry-level positions. You must train and prepare existing leaders with the skills and knowledge necessary to deal with this new cultural landscape and to make sure that they are not excluded in the process, but feel an important part of the new culture. As it stands, we need to do more to create equitable opportunities. According to the McKinsey Women in the Workplace report, both men and women of color are less likely to be promoted than that of white counterparts. As A.W. Boston explained, a Black man and a white woman make approximately 74 cents and 78 cents in white dollars. Respectively, Black women faced with multiple forms of oppression only make 64 cents. We must reverse this trend. So strategy number 4. When we look at strategy number 4 is diversity. We must measure it and we must monitor it. Organizations look to data to find solutions to many challenges. They have learned that when they have structures in place to capture and analyze data, they make better informed decisions. We can apply that approach to racial equity by simply capturing data on who is hired, who is promoted, and who leaves. And when that information is accessible, making sure that it is distributed throughout the organization with anonymity. Collecting data can inform your organization and showcase any trends of inequality in hiring, retention, and promotion. 5th strategy, create an inclusive environment that's intersectional. By using appropriate and respectful language, helps those around you feel respected and included. Individuals bring many experiences, as well as wealth, as well as class, as well as sexual orientation, as well as religion, and as well as immigration status to the workplace. Those all must be respected, acknowledged, and valued. The level of holistic inclusion allows individuals to fully showcase and bring to work their whole selves. Having a diverse culture with employees, leaders, that equal access, that has equal respect, and that has equal opportunity is part of this, especially since the new dominant workforce, millennials, and Generation Z demand diversity, access, opportunity, and feedback. So these are the things that are no longer optional for our future. Number 6, Center your organization why. It is important to identify and center your organization or core belief in diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, as well as it is important to make sure that everyone in the organization understands that that is truly your root, your why, and your core. A unified why for equity and justice is the key to effective systematic organizational transformation. Purpose drives action, but collective purpose drives change. So that promoting people of diverse backgrounds and cultures is seen as a part of your organization why. And at the same time, you keep in mind that promoting diverse individuals does not mean you cannot promote others, and they must not think that as well. Do not approach hiring and promotion with a scarcity mentality. Make sure that they understand that your why is for the purpose of everyone in the entire organization. And I will go into this a little further later on. Let's look at our number 7. Have courage and continue to have open dialogue. Now, why is that important? Because if you've done the other 6 things that I've talked about, where you've built trust, where you bought into diversity as your core why, as this is the time now that you can begin to have honest conversation and dialogue about inequality. It cannot be done before the first 5 steps, because diversity doesn't just, or inequality, the elimination of equality just doesn't magically disappear. People doesn't magically all of a sudden decide that they're comfortable to talk about it. But if they know that you're committed, if they know that this is part of your core, if they know that this is what you believe in, they will follow. So number 7, have courage and continue open and honest dialogue, because inequality doesn't magically appear, and you can't magically achieve it with just asking questions. Just because protest dies and the media may stop reporting on inequality does not mean that racism is resolved. The moment is important because as our society, we are talking about a topic that many have ignored and shut down in the past. So keeping dialogue takes courage. In every organization, going to the internal employees and leadership level, to higher management levels, to the boardroom, all should be included in this ride of courage. Dialogue means growth and must happen continually. And the more we talk to one another, and the more we're able to break down our internal conscious and unconscious biases, that's when the journey of meaningful change will occur. Because great leaders, not only within organizations, they live lives that have courage to be able to speak their minds and respect the opinions of other people, to be transparent, and to be authentic. We must remain vigilant, transparent. Above all things, we must be empathetic and give steps to those in management, to our staff, to our C-suites, to our boardrooms, so that we can all have meaningful change. Now, we all must be patient, though, and flexible and open, because change and the status quo doesn't come easy. But we do know that it's no longer acceptable, nor is it working. We must all find our place. our passion, and open our heart in the unprecedented era of disruption and change. We must all have a larger and different vision, and we must all make sure that it's a possibility to have equal access, equal opportunity, and a level playing field. Your adaptability is key to the very existence of your organization. So get out your phone, your computer, your piece of paper, and start strategizing how you will go to the next level. It sets up innovation and diversity and having people think collectively. It sets up employees and leaders that look like people in the communities that they serve. It sets you up to be seen in a location and communities across the country that honors your history. The Hungry Club Forum began as a secret initiative of the Butler Street YMCA in Atlanta. It was a place where systematic white politicians could meet out of the public eye with local Black leaders who were excluded from many of the city's civic organizations. Dr. King, being a native of Atlanta, addressed the club on May 10th in 1967. So you have a long history. You have a history that says you're inclusive. You have a history that says you give access. You have a history that says you give opportunity. And today, we must continue that access, that opportunity. We must take that tree down. And most importantly, we must also know that people are craving stability and to be heard and to be understood and to be led. There's never been more of a tumultuous time than now. So leaders, staff, board members, be visible, be vigilant, be transparent, be empathetic. This will strengthen the currency of your relationship in ways that you could never imagine. And so I want to ask you just one question. What will you do? What will you do to bring and uproot inequalities within your organization, within your neighborhood, within your sphere of influence? What will you do when you're met with situations and circumstances that challenge you because you know it spells inequality? What will you do? What I say is, you're capable of everything. We need you to take a stance, to be authentic, to listen, to open up your heart and be empathetic, to be patient, to build a culture that is so strong that it actually supports everyone in it with respect, with dignity, and with value. So I'm going to ask you just one more time. What will you do? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna, for your powerful message with our attendees here this evening. So what I'm going to do now is open it up for Q&A. And I know that there are some questions about the 7 strategies that Donna shared with us. So Mary, thank you so much for dropping them in the chat box. They were 7 fabulous strategies, and I wanted to make sure that you all had the opportunity to capture them if you didn't get a chance to jot them down in your notes quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and read through the questions that are posted in the Q&A for Ms. Donna to respond to live. If you have others, please drop them in, and I will be sure to read them out loud. But we will go ahead and start with a question from Daryl. And Donna, Daryl is saying, from your knowledge of the YMCA movement, what has the YMCA done well, and what is the area that we need the most work? What are your thoughts on that? Uh-oh, is she still muted?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I couldn't get myself off of mute. Daryl, just thank you for that question, first of all. I think like all organizations that find themselves in a time of just unprecedented change, one of the things that I think that, you know, the YMCA has done extremely well is to make itself accessible. I think moving forward that, you know, the leadership of the YMCA will make decisions that will take this organization in the right direction. So I think, you know, like a lot of organizations that are challenged with resources and manpower, that sometimes they fall short in providing the kind of maybe opportunities that the staff would like to see. But I think that they're open, and I think that they're listening. So that would be my answer.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you so much. So then our next question, it looks like it was lifted up anonymously. It says, what advice would you give to young leaders of color who are trying to engage C-suite leaders in deepening their commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equity work with policy change, representation, and adequately supportive budgets? What are your thoughts? What's your advice?
So I would say that it's extremely important for you to be visible and to make sure that you are mentored, because that's going to help you gain access, wisdom, and knowledge. I think also that your challenge is going to be one in which of not having possibly the resources that you may need. So you will have to be creative in actually doing that. But I always say, you must have a plan. You must create a plan for yourself on how you're going to capture and how you're going to meet your objectives. But first, know what it is that you're working towards. And after you decide that, I say partner with other local resources and other organizations, if that's a possibility for you. Reach out and try, and also to get those organizations that provide volunteers for you, because support is everything. And I will just offer that, you know, if ever there's anything that I can do, I'm available as well.
Thank you, Donna. We have another question, and speaking to the experience that you've had with various organizations in the past, what things have you seen work well with organizations who are on similar journeys in terms of addressing equity and inclusion and diversity? What things have you seen done well, and what things would you say are challenges and or lessons to have learned from the past that you could share with our leaders here on the call today?
So I think the best scenario is when organizations make diversity and inclusion and justice and racial equity, their why. That they actually build their platform around those particular things. And especially today, let me just say this, because if you understand how things work, especially when it comes to funding, let's take the Ford Foundation as an example. I would say probably they've eliminated almost close to 700 organizations that they're no longer funding. Why? Because racial equity and justice is not on their why anymore. So I think we have to be real careful in the decision making to make sure that we remain relevant, and that we also make sure that we can obtain the funding that we actually need, because that's going to be very important for the organization to be able to reach its goals. But you must have commitment from senior leadership. You must have commitment from the senior leadership, because whatever your senior leaders believe, that's your why. That's what the organization will represent. So when I've seen organizations that work exceedingly and exceptionally well, they've had a very strong diversity and inclusion department. They've had a why that has included the three things that I talked about equity and inclusion and diversity and justice. They've been able to have more authentic conversations within their organization because of their transparency. Even when they don't know, they say they don't know. I've also seen within an organization that does things, I think, exceptionally, exceedingly well, is that you have people that actually care about other people. And that is very evident when you walk into the door, that this is their organizational culture, and that they also respect their millennials and the younger leaders and the entry-level staff and the middle-level staff. There's a great deal of respect that is given, and then that is what they receive. Now, as far as what organizations do poorly, I would say just the opposite of all of those things. And I think number one is that they don't listen, because I think staff and leaders are very good at saying what's needed. So I think that would probably have to be respected more often.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is, what roles do allies take in these spaces when they're wanting to get involved and take action in this space? What roles should they take? What recommendations would you push and offer up for them to consider in these conversations?
So when it comes to allies, I think a very authentic conversation needs to be had with them, so that they have an understanding of what the current state really is. And they have to have an understanding also of what their own biases are, because what you find is that they are struggling to make sense of all of this. It's like a wake-up call. It's a light bulb moment for them. And even though they may have been around for decades, it's like they are now becoming conscious of some of the inequalities that have existed for years and decades. So education is extremely important. And I'm gonna tell you why it's so important. And I started with that because it goes back to what I said about it builds trust. And you want allies to trust you. And you want to be able to trust your allies. Allies are very important because they have access and they are can be very powerful. They can get into places that we're not. They can have conversations that we can't. So if we send them out armed and educated, then they become actually very powerful tools for us to be able to utilize. But then you also have to give them some really concrete goals, because what they're searching for is a path forward. So whether that's money, whether that's their volunteerism, whether that you need access to their network, I think you need to be very specific with them. And I think you always need to be very honest with them. And I think you need to work to build an ongoing, sustainable relationship of respect.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, next question from Peter. What advice would you give to C-suite leaders who are having trouble building trust in their communities? What blind spots and barriers do they need to consider and work to dismantle?
I think, first of all, they need courage. They need courage to be able to see things differently and to speak upon them in ways and places and with people where they may meet resistance because they are not at the same understanding level that they are. They really have to take the flag and run up the hill. And it won't be easy, but it has to be done because that's what great leaders do. They understand that things can't remain the same. And that was fine before this happened because everything was at status quo. And now we understand status quo is broken. It has never worked. It just had the appearance of working. And it only worked for a few. So they have to send out the charge and the message that what I stand for is equality, respect, access, opportunity, and a level playing field. And again, that's going to take courage because those conversations are not going to be easy. But I have faith in the leaders of this organization that that's exactly what they'll do. That you'll be able to really count on them to do that and to make it your why, because that is going to ensure your future. And that's going to also make sure that you have innovation and that you have a workforce that wants to work there, that you have communities that respect you for what you stand for and what you do. You have also within your organization, employees and staff that are able to bring their whole selves to your workplace because they feel respected and valued. That's our new future. And that's what we need. And as we can support them in any way, shape, or form, we need to be right there, knowing that they're the ones that are on the front line for us, and we've got their back.
Absolutely, thank you. We have a question from Harry, and he actually lifted up something that you shared and wanted a little more elaboration on it. So he says, I loved your point that purpose drives action and collective purpose drives change. Can you please elaborate on this a little further?
In order for us to move a mountain, it takes a collective. And that collective has to be united with one purpose. When you have that, the synergy that creates is so great that it creates change. And when you have change for just a second, you can no longer go back. And when you can no longer back, you're always going to be striving to go to the next level. That's why it's so important. Because this is a time that is challenging all of us to go to the next level. To challenge ourselves in our thoughts, in our ideas, and in our actions. And when that collective gets to be supported and valued and acknowledged, we've won the war.
Thank you for unmuting me. Thank you for sharing your response as well, Donna. So we have just a couple of questions left, and I'll go ahead and share them with you now. So one of our leaders asked, how do leaders create a space to begin courageous and open dialogue? If it doesn't exist right now, what advice would you give to leaders who are aiming to create those spaces?
So I would say the first thing that needs to happen is that they have a very heartfelt and authentic conversation that expresses their desire to make a change and to see a change. And that they also express that they are now willing to do whatever it takes for that to happen. Then I would say they would need to educate themselves on how to go about doing that and practice it on a daily basis, because people are going to be watching. And the moment that they see your actions are not consistent with your words, there's broken trust there. So in order for us to have really authentic conversations, that conversation must start with ourselves. And all of the negative narratives that we've had going on with ourselves about things, places, and people, we must reckon with. And then when we do that, it will allow us to get past those things and reach out authentically. And they have to be transparent. I'm having a bad day. Are you? I feel this way. These are the things that I do to manage through these really crazy times. People understand when they see and hear people speaking, not from their head, but from their heart. And that's when people will open up and respond in a very positive way. And when that happens, now you're creating a culture of people that feel like it's okay to say what they really think and what they really feel, because they understand that they're supported in that and that there'll be no retribution for that. You know, it's like when I talk about people, when they want to talk about innovation and moving, I said, well, okay, well, first of all, you got to allow your employees to fail. Matter of fact, you got to celebrate their failures. And then you've got to take those learnings and then go and innovate. There is not a genius on the planet, whether it was Einstein or any of them, that didn't fail 1,000,000 times before they came up with what they needed. So you've got to create just that comfort level for your staff and the people that you work with, and just show up and be authentic. There's nothing greater or better than yourself. People like you when you're yourself, when you're genuine, and when you're authentic.
Thank you so much, Donna. That's great. All right, last question for the evening. I will share it for you to think about and offer your wisdom in response. But the question is, what advice do you have for our young leaders of color that may be supervised or working with a leader of color that may be perpetuating or even upholding systems of racism and oppression? What advice would you have for a leader in those spaces?
I would first say that a conversation needs to be had with self, because you're going to have to go and be courageous. You're going to have to go and express how you feel. You're going to have to understand and know what's going on. So at first, I would say, try to gain some understanding of why this person may be acting this way. Then I would say, I would actually talk with people to make sure that your vision of this person is consistent and the same, not even mentioning the fact of that you're experiencing difficulty at all, right? Because you're trying to find out more about this individual. That is this just part of who they are, or is this a circumstantial, situation that may be going on with them? But this is what I must tell you, is that you can't remain silent. So I would say to figure out a way to mediate the situation. First, having a conversation with that individual. And when you have that conversation with that individual, please mention that you hope that because you're having this conversation, there is no retribution. And if you then cannot get the situation corrected, then I think you have to go and keep moving until you do. Now, sometimes moving means moving, but what I will say is if this time right here hasn't taught any of us anything, what is taught us is that we can no longer allow ourselves to be put into situations that makes us less than ourselves. And when people do that, there has to be a form of action that we take, because when we don't do that, then we are giving up on ourselves. We then shrink down and become something less than we are. And we're not going to be happy. We're not going to be fulfilled. We're not going to be productive at work. We're not going to be. So we need to come up with a way to be able to make sure that if you can't talk directly to that individual and you can bring somebody else in to mediate, do that. If you need to go have another conversation with someone else about that individual, I just say you need to do that. But I say do it respectfully. Do it with the fact that you really want to come up with a solution, not create chaos and turmoil. Because even though this person may not be respecting you, I need you to keep your own respect. I need to make sure that you sit on your throne and make sure that your actions and your behavior is something that you'll be proud of.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for lifting that up, Donna. I want to thank you for your time with us all here this evening and closing out this amazing day for all of our attendees. And I will share for anyone who's wanting to learn more about the 7 strategies that Donna lifted up. She will be unpacking them further in a workshop this Thursday afternoon. So if you have some time and can make it available in your schedule to attend, I'm sure Donna would love to spend some more time with you unpacking those strategies further. So thank you again, Donna, for your time with us this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Anytime. All right. What we're going to do now is share some great information for you all to have with you as we close out this fabulous day and give you some takeaways to consider as we move into tomorrow and the remainder of the week. So we are participating. I don't know if you all know that you have the ability to participate in a scavenger hunt. And so tomorrow, Tuesday's scavenger hunt theme is around Election Day. We're asking that you share your responses over Facebook, Twitter, Link, and LinkedIn, and utilize our virtual photo booth for your pictures. You're going to take pictures and upload them to these various platforms. We're asking that you utilize our hashtags Y4All, as well as hashtag Uprooting, to check out the other pictures that are showing up in those threads. You are asked to do any of the 5 things listed here below as part of the scavenger hunt. And there will be prizes, so please be willing to lean in and participate. We're looking for a selfie with you and a voting sticker, or with you in line to vote. We're looking for a 10-second video of you sharing why it's important to vote. We're also looking for a selfie of you watching the results as they come in. So as you're watching the televisions glued to all the screens, as most of us will be tomorrow night, please feel free to take a selfie and post it. We're looking for you to share on social media somewhere in any of the platforms about one societal change that we need to address in 2021. What's something that you're really pushing and lifting up that needs to be addressed for 2021? And then the last piece of the scavenger hunt is for you to shout out someone who brings you positivity. If there is someone in your life that is bringing positivity to you or to others around you, please shout them out so that we can share throughout the network and throughout this experience this week. So those are your scavenger hunt homework assignments for tomorrow. We look forward to seeing them all populate throughout the day. I also want to call your attention to the virtual photo booth. And so if you haven't had the opportunity already, please click the link. We're dropping it in the Dropbox here for you now so that you can go and take a selfie of yourself. And it's very fun. I've already done a couple of them. So you have the opportunity to either take a still photo for yourself, or you can take make a GIF, which is a moving photo, I think across 4 different pictures, quick snapshots. So go and have some fun with our virtual photo booth so that we can see your addition in our amazing gallery here. We will be sharing it throughout the week as the days go on so that you can see and have fun with each other. Remember that our experiences here in the DigMD team and network are all about connection and relationship building and having fun with each other. So please lean into this experience. We truly are trying to create the magic of our network experiences overall. So that is available for you all week long. Please click the link when you have the opportunity and have some fun taking some photos. I would be remiss if we didn't share one more time to be voter ready and get out and vote. If you have not done so already, I'd love to hear if you have already. Please drop in the chat box. We'd love to know if you had the opportunity to do some early voting. But if not, I hope that it is in your plan and on your calendar to go out and vote at some point tomorrow in the day. It is so very important and critical that your voice is included in this year's historical election. So please be mindful, get out there and make the opportunity to vote. I also am getting ready to share a video with you all because on the topic of tomorrow's election day, our DigMD and government relations teams came together to share a phenomenal message of unity and healing and the power of us being together. So we're going to share just a short video with you all so you can hear this phenomenal message.
Down the days to the 2020 presidential election, our nation feels alarmingly divided along the lines of race, political affiliation, income, and other dimensions of diversity. At the Y, we recognize that in a diverse multicultural society, we are stronger when we are inclusive and our doors are open to all. We are guided by our core values of caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility. They are the foundation of all we do. During this time, the Y has a responsibility and an opportunity to model our core values and remind all those that we serve that despite our differences and diversity of perspectives, ideologies, and beliefs, as a community and nation, what unites us will always be stronger than what divides us.
Over the past year, our communities have been overwhelmed by a growing political divide and relentless uncertainty. Now, following a polarizing national election, we have the opportunity to determine how we can move forward in a spirit of unity and inclusion. Together, we can collectively heal, engage with our neighbors, and build bridges across all of our communities.
No matter what your political leanings are, we all share the same basic hopes and aspirations for ourselves and our families: safety, belonging, and the opportunity to thrive. Regardless of how you feel about the outcome of the election, we can now begin the critical work of rebuilding and reconnecting with one another.
Every day, we have an opportunity to foster mutual understanding and empathy because people from all walks of life come together at the Y. Within our facilities and programs, we see people who might never otherwise cross paths build relationships, learn from one another, and work together to strengthen their community. All important steps to moving our country forward. This is the power of the why.
What unites us is stronger than what divides us, now and always. Inspired by our core values of caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility, we are determined to help people find common ground, build bridges across social divides, and work together for the greater good.
Absolutely. Thank you all, amazing team, for sharing that video with our attendees today. What I want to do now is plug some great resource that we were able to pull together with you with some of our fabulous facilitators that we are connected with. And so this amazing organization known as Creating Cultures of Change and Equity has put together some amazing meditation videos, which are available for you on our YouTube channel and posted to link. We know the next few days can be extremely stressful, and so we've made this on-demand guided resource for you all and accessible to you. Whether you are feeling stressed or not, we feel that you will find great value in these videos. And so we wanted to make it accessible to everyone on the call, whether you are active staff, volunteer, or just here as part of our YMCA family. You do have the ability to access the link. So I believe they've been dropped in the chat box for you. Please be mindful to just take a look at them and see if they would be valuable for you. As we lean into the next 24 hours, I think it would be very helpful for you to consider them as an option and as a resource. Also want to do a plug that you can join us live on Wednesday morning for a virtual guided meditation and healing experience as well at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. We recognize that Wednesday morning, the day after the election, no matter what the results would be, this could be an amazing experience for each of us. So if you have the time and the availability in your schedule, please join us Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central for a guided meditation and healing experience session. I'm going to share with you what we have planned for the remainder of the Wednesday day schedule. And so after our virtual meditation day that morning, we will open our general session at 11 a.m. Central with an amazing keynote speaker on resiliency. She is the Chief Resiliency Officer for an international organization focused on resiliency, and you won't want to miss this session. So we hope to see you there. We also will lift up a few workshop options happening from 1 to 2 p.m. Central. You'll have 4 options to choose from. We hope that you'll find one that resonates with you in a meaningful way. We're also planning to hold an off-the-record Brave Space for any individual who is interested in attending, and that will take place at 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. It'll be about 90 minutes, and this will be an opportunity for you to really lean in, share how you're feeling, transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability. This session will not be recorded in any form or fashion. It really, truly is just a brave space for each of us to lean on each other and share how we're feeling. Then we'll have our closing general session, which will be around mental health. It will take place at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And our keynote is an amazing emerging leader who actually spoke at Y175 this past year. So we hope that you'll be able to join us at that time and hear her amazing message as well. And then Wednesday evening, we'll close it out with an amazing virtual paint night. So if you've ever been at wine and canvas or cookies and canvas, or the opportunities where you get to have a guided painting instruction take place, we will be doing a virtual option of that evening. And so we hope to and look forward to seeing you there. We really hope that you got a lot out of today's session and it really truly filled your cup in a meaningful way. We have been really intentional throughout our planning committee efforts to put together as close to an in-person event as we could. So we hope that it has reached you and resonated with you in a meaningful way. Please be mindful to get some good rest over these next few days. They will be some interesting days, so be mindful to lean into that. And don't forget, we're having game night tonight. So if you have some free time, join us for some virtual gaming this evening as well. With that, I will say thank you all for joining us. Hope to see you over the next few days. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Cuidado que por ahí vienen los anormales. Y con estrella que oigan mi gente, lo más grande de este mundo siempre me hacen sentir un orgullo profundo. Lo llamé, no me preguntaron dónde, orgullo tengo de ustedes, mi gente siempre responde. Vinieron todos para oírme guarachar, pero como soy ustedes, yo lo invitaré a cantar. Vinieron todos ahí para oírme guarachar, pero como soy ustedes, yo lo invitaré a gozar. Conmigo si van a bailar, yo lo invitaré a cantar.